me here. And we've done mindful reset together. We've done yoga nidra together. I've done some stress workshops, aromatherapy workshops. But for those of you I don't know, my name is Marnie, and I have been practicing and teaching mindfulness and yoga for the past 20 years. And sleep has been something that I've always struggled with since I was a child. And so these are tried and true mindfulness practices that I use personally to help me with sleep. And so hopefully they'll help you as well. I teach for Living Well. I teach at the Bridge Yoga. If you have not checked that out, that is a wonderful space here in town to do all different kinds of yoga and meditation. And I teach in treatment centers, recovery centers. I do corporate yoga, privates, by Zoom or in person. And I also work with kids. I was a former elementary school teacher, so I get to teach yoga and mindfulness to kids as well at Traditions Montessori and at Renner Academy. So that's kind of my background, and we're just going to get started. So let's just kind of go over what we're going to cover today. First of all, you've probably already had some of this with the benefits of sleep and why we need it. And then we're going to talk about what mindfulness is and how it can help us. And then go into our mindset and detachment, as well as some mindfulness practices so that you actually have something to take with you. We're going to talk about non-judging and compassion because that's really part of mindfulness. The importance of sleep hygiene. I did notice that, I guess, next session is about sleep hygiene. So I'll just give a little preview kind of, to get y'all ready for that. And then we'll have some Q&A. And if you have questions, please just ask in the chat and I'll do my best to answer those. As we know, sleep is very important. We need it to restore us physically, mentally, emotionally. We have improved memory, focus, and cognition when we've had a good night's sleep. It actually lowers our blood pressure and reduces stress, helps us have better immune function, as well as increased pain tolerance. So people that sleep better, that have chronic pain issues, which is me, I actually feel better when I've had a good night's sleep, and your healing is better. Also, it balances your hormones and helps with weight regulation. So sleep is, a third of our day, and it's important that we get good quality sleep. So how do mindfulness practices help prepare the mind and body for sleep? How does this all work together? Well, the practices that we're going to do help to regulate the nervous system. So if no one has ever showed you the brain and how it goes into the fight or flight, I'm going to share that with you now. So imagine this is the brain. It actually would look more like this, but this is your brain, and your fingers right here. This is the frontal lobe. So this is your thinking brain. And then when you are triggered, so maybe you get an email right before you go to bed and it's something about the next day in a meeting, and all of a sudden you're triggered. And so what happens is our thinking brain goes offline, and this is our amygdala. This is our guard dog, you could call it. And then we go into the limbic system, which is our emotional brain, or into the brain stem, which is our survival. And so what happens then is our thinking brain is gone, and we're in an emotional state or even in a survival state, and all of those stress responses kick in. And if that's happening when you're trying to go to sleep, then it's going to be really challenging to get everything to shut back down because your body is in fight, flight, or freeze. So regulating the nervous system is number one, and that's what mindfulness practices can do. Mindfulness practice also help lower blood pressure and release mental and physical tension and pain. So this helps us let go of the day. It helps us release any tension in the body. It quiets the mind, relaxes the nervous system in the body, and helps us move from a state of doing, which we have to do all day long. We're doing, active, into a state of being. And when we are in a state of being, then we have a better opportunity to relax, calm the mind, and drift off to sleep naturally. Mindfulness brings awareness to the causes of sleep disturbances. So if you are having an issue with a coworker and it's not being resolved, that could bring, the mindfulness practices could bring some awareness to that. Maybe you have some stress in your life that you're trying to work through, all of this impacts our sleep. And so when we have mindfulness practices, it gives us more awareness of what's going on that could impact our sleep. And the mindfulness practices help us let go and surrender to sleep. So this is probably the most beneficial part of it, is like you can just surrender it all and go to sleep. What is mindfulness? So this is kind of where we start, just to make sure everyone knows what we're working with when we say mindfulness. It's a buzzword now. Everyone talks about doing this mindfully and doing this mindfully. But what does it really mean? Well, mindfulness, this comes from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who really brought mindfulness to the West. And he says that mindfulness is the awareness that arises through paying attention. So your attention is right here. If I'm saying, I want you to pay attention to your breath, and this is your breath from the beginning to the end, and your attention isn't over here thinking about dinner plans, it's right here on the breath. Focused attention with intention or purpose. So maybe your purpose for the mindful breathing, if we use breathing as an example, is for the breath to be even and not forced. And then the last part is non-judgmentally. So we don't attach to the outcome of it. So no matter what's going on, whatever we're practicing mindfulness with, we're not going to tell ourselves a big story about how it happens. Okay. So if we're breathing mindfully, we would have our awareness on the inhale and the exhale. It would be with intention. So maybe it would be, the intention would be to keep it even and regulated and not forced. And then if we aren't able to do that, we're struggling with our breath, we don't tell ourselves how much we suck at breathing and get all upset about it and get caught up in it. That's where the non-judgment comes in. And he adds at the end, in the service of self-understanding and wisdom. Because really, if all we do is do these practices and don't have any more awareness or self-understanding, then really what's the point? And all of that can help us with our sleep and just our waking time as well. So let's break this down. Understanding mindfulness. It's paying attention with intention or purpose without judgment to make us more aware of what is going on in our life. What's causing the issues for our sleep? And sometimes we know what they are, but other times they may be something that we really aren't aware of until we do some deeper practices. And we're going to practice it now just so that you can get an idea. We're going to do some mindful breath. I always like to teach belly breathing in whatever class I'm teaching. So we're going to just start with hands on the belly. And you can close your eyes and just start with taking a minute to appreciate the fact that you're here, that you're doing these practices to make your life better, to be more self-aware. And as you breathe, I want you to notice that your belly will fill up with air. Now, if you're in a stress state, it may go to the chest or the ribs, but what we're looking for is diaphragmatic breathing right here in the belly. So as you breathe in, fill up your belly with air and allow your belly to expand. And then as you breathe out, all of that air releases. Breathing in. Nice, easy, not forced. And then breathing out. Breathing in. And breathing out. And as Thich Nhat Hanh says, he says, breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Like I'm right here with it. I'm not doing anything else. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. Okay. So let's come back and just think about how was that for you? And was there a story going on in your head about how you were breathing? Because this is really important part of it. We can do all kinds of things mindfully: mindful eating, mindful listening, mindful walking, mindful consumerism. And of course, near and dear to my heart is mindful parenting. So that just means that we're paying attention to what we're doing with an intention. Maybe we're mindfully eating and we don't want any distractions and we don't want to overeat. But then if we do, we don't beat ourselves up about it. That's a really important part of it. So the first thing, the thing that has helped me the most in sleep is my thoughts and my mindset about my sleep. So I want you all to just close your eyes and listen to my voice. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to think about what your mindset and your perspective is on your sleep currently. So what are your current thoughts about the quality of sleep? Maybe it's, I'm not a good sleeper. I can't fall asleep without this or that. Or I wake up all night long. Can't sleep because my husband snores. And then what happens in your mind and body when you can't fall asleep? You fight with the sheets. You curse yourself for not being able to sleep. You stare at the alarm clock. Check your phone to calculate how many hours of sleep you're going to get if you can fall asleep right now. You tell yourself, oh my God, why can't I get to sleep? What's wrong with me? What about if you wake up in the middle of the night? What are the things that you're saying to yourself? Or if you can't sleep at all, we've all had those nights where it's like, oh, it's not going to happen tonight. Maybe we say things like, I'm going to be worthless at work tomorrow, or I can't even possibly go to work because I haven't slept, or I'm going to have a headache, or my backache is going to be worse. I'm going to have to drink so much coffee to get through the day. So this is happening when we're trying to sleep. And then how do you talk about your sleep to others? So when you've had a bad night, do you immediately, first thing in the morning over coffee, tell your partner or your children, I didn't sleep at all last night, today's going to be an awful day? Everyone you see, you got to tell them about your sleep, about how you didn't sleep well. Let them know, oh, I'm not going to be great in the meeting today because I didn't get a good night's sleep. So this is our mindset. And every time we tell ourselves those stories, we are reinforcing the pattern and making it stronger. And when we do that, we struggle more. So that last part, when I talk about mindfulness, the number one thing that has helped me not necessarily sleep any better, but definitely helped me suffer less when I don't sleep, is the way I think, feel, and speak about my sleep. So instead of awfulizing and telling myself these big stories, I'm going to say something different. So this is where the non-judgment part comes in, and without attachment. We call this practice the second arrow. So the first arrow is not being able to sleep, right? You're laying there and you're like, I can't sleep. I'm tossing and turning. I'm not going to be able to do well tomorrow. That's the second arrow. So the first arrow is maybe you're stressed. You can't sleep. You're fighting with the bed sheets. The second arrow is the story you're telling yourself about not being able to sleep. So that's where the mindset comes in. And when we tell ourselves that big story, beat ourselves up, reinforce the patterns of not being able to sleep, not being a good sleeper, then that is where we are doing the self-imposed suffering. Okay, so that's that second arrow. And that's really the only thing that we have control over is the second arrow. We may not be able to control the fact that our brain's not going to shut off and we're not going to be able to go to sleep. But we can change the way we think about it, the way we talk about it, and the way we feel about it, which enables us to suffer less. And this is really an important component of mindfulness. It's not just being present. It's being present without judgment, without attachment, and with compassion. And so instead of saying to yourself, I suck at sleeping, I'm never going to be able to sleep, this is awful, I want you to say, I think all I need tonight is a nap, and a nap is going to be sufficient for me tonight. Or even though I'm not being able to fall asleep very easily, I'm going to be well rested tomorrow. It's going to be okay. Just that little bit can take you out of the fight or flight and bring you back down to where you can be regulated. Because then you're not stressed about the fact that you're not sleeping. You're just telling yourself, it's going to be okay. I'm going to get plenty of rest. I'm going to get enough rest. I'll be fine tomorrow. It's not going to be a big deal. And then when you wake up in the morning and you see your partner or your children, you're not going to tell them all about the fact that you didn't sleep that night. You're going to stop the mindset of, I am a bad sleeper. and switch it up. Become more aware of the way you talk about it, the way you think about it, and the way you feel about it. And this little shift is really helpful because it helps us suffer less. So it may not mean that you're going to sleep a full 8 hours, but your feelings about it are going to change. And so therefore, you don't have the suffering that goes with it. And that's a huge component of mindfulness. So remember that second arrow. You really have to be aware of what's going on in order to do these practices. So that's why all the little practices that we're going to do next are important, because just like working out at the gym or doing our meditation practice, we don't do it, in an emergency situation. I mean, sometimes we do, but we're doing that every day to build up our capacity to handle stress and live with life better. So these practices are best used consistently so that when you really need it, it is automatic and it just comes naturally. So let's start out with some mindfulness practices. The first thing that I like to do is just make sure that my body is in a place where it is receptive to rest. And so there are stretches that you can do, yoga stretches that you can do in bed or wherever. It can be in a chair or in the bed. And let's just do some stretches right now, very simple, while you're in your chair, that will help you see what I'm talking about. So we're moving into stillness. And sometimes our bodies are active or achy, and they need some kind of movement so that then we can settle. So some gentle stretches would be, very simply, if you'll just kind of straighten up your spine and drop the shoulders down. Just notice what's going on in the body. A lot of times we bypass the body, but it's an important component to getting a good night's sleep. So we're just going to start with some gentle neck rolls. And I like to just have the nose be the guide here. So we're making big circles with the nose, releasing some tension in the neck, and then switch the direction. Good. And we'll roll our shoulders. I mean, super simple. Simple sometimes the most effective because it's something that you can do easily, and then roll them forward. It doesn't take a lot of effort to just get some ease going in the body. Okay, we're going to drop our left ear to the left shoulder, right ear to the right shoulder, just kind of back and forth, especially if you've been on the computer all day. And then you can take your hands and clasp them behind your head, drop your chin, drop your elbows, stretch the back of your neck. Also great to do during your workday. Inhale, open up your shoulders. Exhale, back down. Just notice, be mindful of what's going on in the body. So our intention here is just to relax the body, be present with what's going on. Good. And then inhale the arms up above your head. Nice sweeping movements. Exhale them all the way down. You can bring your hands to earth. We'll do that again. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, bring the hands to heart center. And once more. Moving down the body, we'll do a gentle twist. So you can do this in your chair or in the bed. If you're in your bed, you just bring your knees to your chest and kind of roll them over to one side for a reclining twist. So one side and then the other. And then maybe roll the ankles and roll the wrists. Less than 5 minutes here. You can pull one knee into the chest, either laying down, standing, or sitting. And then pull the other knee into the chest. So switch sides. And maybe even do like a forward fold. So you're all the way up and you're just going to fold all the way over towards the toes, kind of ragdoll. So we grab opposite hand to opposite elbow and just kind of hang in a forward fold to release tension. Now that you've moved the body a little bit to release some of that, You could practice, you don't really, not able to do it right now probably, but legs up the wall. So if you've ever taken yoga, you've probably done this where you come up against the wall, but you could do this in bed as well. And you just turn your feet up into the air, but supported on the wall or the headboard, and your body is laying flat. So you're kind of like an L. So the legs are up here, body's down here. When we do that, all the blood goes down to the head. So it's fresh blood and oxygen to the brain, allowing things to kind of start to settle down. It's also when we invert the body like that, it's great for depression. So, wonderful way to just tell the body, hey, we're getting ready now to go to sleep. And then the last part for the movement is mindful walking meditation. So sometimes when the mind is super active, it's really challenging to do just a regular kind of meditation. And so I recommend that you try walking meditation. And you can do this in your house, in your bedroom, outside, under the light of the moon, barefoot, walking in the grass would be even better. And you can do guided. So if you have, Spotify, YouTube, any kind of meditation app, you can look up guided walking meditation. But basically, we're just walking mindfully. So we're noticing each step as we roll from the heel to the ball to the toe, and then back down, moving the knee and then moving the leg down. We notice each step. We notice how it feels under our feet. We notice what's going on in the body. We have intention to be present right there with the walking. And this can do really, we can do wonders to just help regulate, to stop the mind from overthinking, and to prepare the body. So mindful walking meditation is the next part of the movement. And once you've done some, a little bit of movement, then you can go into the breath work. So sometimes that's all it takes for me is a little bit of stretching, and then I go into the breath work, and then I'm able to ease and surrender into sleep. We already did the belly breath, but let's go ahead and practice that again. So hands on the belly. You don't want to move the chest when you're doing the belly breath. So it's just diaphragmatic breathing. So as you inhale, belly expands and fills up with air. And as you exhale, you release it all out. And just continue that belly breath. So when we do this, we are activating the vagus nerve. That vagus nerve runs from the brain all the way down into the digestive system, connecting the mind and the body. And it's the quickest and most effective way that they have found to regulate the nervous system. So this should be like the first thing that you do once you're ready to fall asleep is go into your belly breath. And if the mind is still wanting to do a lot of chatter, and you're finding yourself attached to that, there are two other kinds of breathing. I believe it's the box breathing that the Navy SEALs use. So we'll do box breathing first because it's a little bit easier than the 4-7-8 breath. But box breathing is basically, let's say I have a square, and then we're going to inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Another round. Inhale, hold, exhale, and hold. Good. So when we bring our awareness to that breathing pattern, we're not thinking about our day or the next day or who you're upset with or what's going on with your child at school. We're just focused on the breath. When we bring that one pointed focus on the breath, then all the other thoughts can kind of fall away. The next one is 4-7-8, and this one is specifically for sleep. This is my favorite one. I can usually do this 4 or 5 times, and then everything starts to settle down. Once you get into these routines, like I said, this ritual of here's how I get prepared mindfully for sleep, then it's like the brain knows. You're telling the brain, this is what we're doing next. We're going to go to sleep, and that is helpful. So 4-7-8 is an inhale for 4, hold for 7, and then exhale for 8. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. And once more, inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Now, if you found that it was challenging for you to hold for 7 and exhale for 8, then what was the story you told yourself about that? Were you like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this breath? This breath is really hard. That is that second arrow, and that's the practice, right? So when we can practice it with our breath, we can do it when we're listening to a coworker and we don't want to get attached to the things that we're hearing and we just want it to kind of go through us. We can be mindful about it. But it takes practice. It's like a muscle that you're working in the brain. So the 4-7-8 breath may be a little bit more challenging. Notice the thoughts that come up with it and try again, right? And then the next part is the body practices. So this is not necessarily movement, more just being aware of what's going on in the body. And a lot of times we carry our emotional baggage, our stress in our muscles and our body systems. So you may know what your stressors are. You may have some unresolved trauma. Forgive me because that is such a buzzword right now, but unresolved trauma that you're not even aware of that could be having an impact on your body, your mind, your spirit. And so when we do some of these body practices, that allows us to get more in tune with what's going on. So therefore, we can resolve that. So the first one is a somatic hold. Somatic just meaning mind, body. We're going to take one hand over your heart, one hand over your belly, and close your eyes. And go into your breath. And I want you to feel the warmth of your hands on your chest and on your belly. Just notice how that feels comforting. And you'll notice when you start to shift, when your nervous system is shifting, if you kind of yawn, or maybe your eyes will water a little bit, or even you'll have more saliva in the mouth. Sometimes you'll feel like a whoosh come over you, or you feel like a warm sensation or tingly. There are lots of different ways to observe those shifts. Sometimes we're just not even aware of them because we don't know that's what's happening. But I see a lot whenever I'm teaching is the yawn will happen. And that's just the body going, okay, I can relax. In other words, you're safe. Okay. So the brain doesn't know the difference between an email that is triggering us or a saber-toothed tiger that's after us, you know. And you see funny memes about this all the time. But basically, we're talking going from fear to safety. And so telling the body, you're safe, I'm safe, all is well. I'm in my bed. You can look around the room and say, there's nothing of danger here in this room. Even look behind you. There's nothing danger. There's no danger behind me. There's no danger around me. If you have, especially if you have experienced any type of trauma, which most people have, then this feeling of safety in the body, in the mind, in the heart is really important. And so this somatic holds helps to regulate with the breath. And then you're going to kind of look for evidence that you're safe and then tell yourself, I'm safe. It's safe for me to fall asleep. And for anyone that has anxiety, this is very, very powerful. Okay. So that's a somatic hold. And then the next part, and also let me add, if you're here and you're not noticing any kind of change, you can bring both hands to the heart. Sometimes that helps. or one hand to the forehead, one to the heart. And then also one hand on the back of the head, one hand on the forehead, or on the sides of the head. Remembering to say, I'm safe, all is well, it is safe for me to fall asleep, I'm loved. Whatever kind of positive intention or affirmation that you can add to it, rather than reinforcing and awfulizing not being able to sleep. Okay, from there, we're going to do a body scan. So we're going to do this practice. You can do it lying down if you have that availability, or you can do it seated. Either way is totally fine. We are not moving the body when we do a body scan. All we're doing is noticing the sensations of the body as I call out the different body parts. You can do this on your own with your own kind of just going through the body parts, or you can do guided. So again, go to the apps, go to Spotify, go to YouTube and look up body scan for sleep, and you'll get a guided meditation practice that you can do for that. So we're starting with eyes closed, if that feels good to you. And all you're looking for is the sensations that you feel in the body part. Maybe you feel tension there or tightness. Maybe you feel like the air conditioner kind of putting air on that and you feel that coolness. Maybe you feel the back of the chair as you're sitting there and you notice that, where that connects. As we bring our attention to these areas, remember we're going to do this non-judgmentally. So even if you feel that ache in your knee, you're not going to tell yourself, I'm going to have a knee replacement. I'm never going to be able to walk right again. I should get my knee brace. We're not telling ourselves the stories. This is just intention and awareness, okay? But if you do tell yourself the story about it, you're just going to become aware of it and have some compassion for yourself and go, oh, there I went again. Let's try this again. Okay, so we're going to start with the bottoms of the feet. Just being aware of any sensations. Big toes, second toes, both feet, third toes, pinky toe, top of the foot, bottom of the foot, the heel, ankles, shins, calves, back of the knee, the knees, quads, the hamstrings, right hip, lower back, left hip, mid back, pelvis, your belly, upper back, back of the neck, your chest, your shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, your wrists, back of the hand, palm of the hand, your thumbs, pointer finger, middle finger, your ring finger, and your pinkies. We're going to move to the front of the neck, and the chin, the jaws, both sides, right ear, back of the head, left ear, forehead, right temple, right eye, nose, left eye, left temple, top of the head, the entire back side of the body, the entire front side of the body, and then the whole body together. Just noticing any sensations that you feel with awareness, with purpose and attention, without the story and the judgment. But when the judgment comes, we offer ourselves compassion. We don't make it worse and reinforce the negative beliefs. We're just going to say, there I went again. Let's start over. And each time we do this, we build that mindfulness muscle and we create new pathways in the brain. Okay, so you can open your eyes, notice how you feel. Now that you've done a little movement, a little breath work, and a body scan, a somatic hold, hopefully all together, even just for your day, you're feeling more present, more relaxed, less stressed. Okay. From there, we're going to try progressive relaxation. So this is similar to a body scan, but we are going to move the body here. And you're going to tense and then release each part of the body as I go through it. And this is if you've done that body scan and you're realizing, man, I am full of tension, then this is a great way to release that tension. So we're going to start again with the feet. And what I want you to do is kind of pull your toes in and squinch your feet and kind of tense your feet as tight as you can. And just hold, 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 and then release. Then you're going to point your toes as much as you can without getting a little cramp in the calf. And then flex your feet so you're pulling your toes back as tight as you can. Pull, 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 and release. And then you're going to tighten the muscles in your calves. So it's like you're trying to show someone your muscle. Look at my muscle. Tight, tight, tight. Squeeze, 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 and release. Then we're going to go to the quads. So you're going to squeeze your quad muscles. And if you have a hard time activating those muscles, that takes awareness as well, right? And we're also not going to tell ourselves a big story about it. Like if our muscles aren't as strong as they used to be, we want to offer ourselves compassion, be non-judgmental. So we're squeezing the muscles in our quads, our upper thighs. Squeeze, 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 and then release. And then we're going to go to the glutes and the hamstrings. Squeeze and tighten, hold, 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 and release. Then the entire lower body, so your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings, your calves, and your feet. Squeeze it all as tight as you can. Tight, 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 tight. Tighter. And then release all that out. Now your tummy muscles, pull in and tighten those tummy muscles. Like someone's going to come and touch your belly and you want to show them you've got muscles. Tight as you can. Squeeze, 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 and then release. The lower part of your body should start feeling really heavy and relaxed. We're going to squeeze our hands into a fist as tight as you can. And then take those fists. We're going to bend at the elbows and squeeze our arms. Tight, tight, tight. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then release. You may start to notice, oh, I didn't even realize I was holding tension in these areas. Even when I did the body scan, I didn't see it, because sometimes you need the opposite to see it. So you have to like actively tense it to notice, oh, I was holding that. And then from there, we're going to go to the jaw. So you're going to like clench the jaw. That's usually where people hold a lot. And then bring the shoulders up to our ears. When I get to sleep, this is how I start almost every night. And I have to tell myself, it's okay to calm down. Okay. So elbows up to the ears and clench the jaw. Tight, 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 tight. And then release. And squinch the whole face into like a little point. It looks funny, but just be funny. And then open your mouth, open your eyes, and stick out your tongue. Good. Now the whole body tense, hold it as tight as you can. Really squeeze everything together, and then let everything go. So now you've done, several mindfulness practices to prepare yourself. And hopefully all that, hamster wheel going in the brain, all that little monkey mind is starting to go offline and settle down for sleep. Next part of this is our mental practices. So the first one is the anchor meditation. And what we mean by this is you're just going to anchor your attention to something specifically. And that could be your breath. It could be a prayer that you want to say. It could be a mantra, such as Om or Satnam. It could be counting the breath. So as you inhale, you're counting backwards from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7. So we're going to practice that now, and we're just going to use, let's just use the breath because it's with us all the time, right? We're going to count the breath, and that is where our meditation practice is going to be anchored to. That is the point of focus. So you can close your eyes if that feels good, starting with 10. We're going to inhale 10, and then exhale 10. Inhale 9. Exhale 9. If you want to add a mantra, you could say Satnam, just meaning truth. Sat as you inhale, Nam as you exhale. Inhale. Maybe you want to say Amen. Good. You can also just look up guided meditations for sleep. There's plenty available. There's no shortage of guided meditations for sleep. Again, some of my favorites are the Insight Timer app or the Calm app. The Calm app, and maybe the Insight Timer does too, has sleep stories. And my daughter, who is a teenager, and I both love the sleep stories. So they're just very calm stories and told in a very, melodic, relaxing voice to help you drift off, because you don't have to like really pay attention, but it's enough to distract your monkey mind into settling into a rhythm for sleep. And then another fun practice that I will try whenever like the brain is really super active is called cognitive shuffling. So for this, you'll take a word like cloud. Okay. So you just come up with a word, any word. The more random, the better. Then you start with the first letter and you name as many things as you can that start with that letter. Cat, chair, coin, color, crayon. And this is just like random things coming in. And as you do that practice, what's happening is it's just changing the brain pattern. So you're not stuck on whatever you were stuck on, and you're thinking of other things. And then you can go to L, and you're going to lion, laugh, litter, loud, love. Eventually, the brain is going to get tired of trying to find all these words, and it's going to say, hey, let's just rest. Okay. Again, if you find yourself going, oh, I can't even think of 3 words, man, what is wrong with my brain? That is judgment. That is attachment. We don't want to do that because that's where we suffer. That's part of that mindfulness practice. Cognitive shuffling. And then let's say, listen, I've done all these things, I'm in bed, and there's still stuff going on in my mind. I would recommend that you get up out of bed, go into another room, and let me just, full disclosure, usually I just do this in my bedroom because, I don't want to get up out of bed, even though I can't sleep. But they always say if you can't sleep, the professionals, that you should move out of the room for sleep and do your active mental work somewhere else and then come back. But I've done it in bed too, and it's been fine. Okay. So the brain dump, you have a journal next to, and all the thoughts that are, I need to get dog food. I've got to do that blood test. My daughter needs a tutorial. All the things that have been going through your mind, you're just going to write them all out, maybe even plan your day for tomorrow. And so that none of that is going on in your brain. The second thing that you can do is a gratitude journal. So we all know the effects of gratitude. They just help us in so many ways, just seeing the world in a different place, changing our perspective, also is regulating. And so you're just going to start listing everything that you're grateful for. The more specific, the better. And, try to get to at least 10 or 20 things. And it'll start kind of mundane. I have a nice soft pillow. And then it can get, really increase that capacity to feel gratitude for your present moment. And sometimes the reason why we can't sleep is because we're worried or we're angry or we're upset with someone. And so finding things that you are grateful for changes the brain pattern and allows us to go into a different state. And gratitude itself, that energy is great for the heart, great for the mind, and it can allow you to be more prepared and ready for sleep. So as many things as you can list for gratitude journal, go through it all. And it just feels good when you're done. You're like, man, I have so much to be thankful for. Because, we have that negativity bias where we are more in tune with the negative things going on, the negative feedback we get, the negative criticism. All of that is like really, really bright and glaring. It's like a sign that's blinking in our brain. So the more that you can come into gratitude, the more that will settle down. And then another way to journal mindfully is to do kind of a stream of consciousness. So this is not intentional, really. It's just, the only intention is to, whatever comes up in your mind, you just write it down. And sometimes interesting things pop up whenever you do the stream of consciousness. But these are different things that I've tried that have definitely helped. And then sometimes, like, it's not going to happen. Your mind is just really active. I've had those nights before where I'm like, you know what? I'm not sleeping tonight. My brain is really active. There must be something that I need to do. And so I'll get up, and if I'm, thinking about planning a class, I'll go ahead and plan the class. If I'm thinking about the fact that I need to, figure out the grocery list, and that's what I'm going to do. If I want to read, then I'll read. I don't recommend picking up tech or watching TV just because those are going to be more stimulating for you. So even the act of like going in the other room and reading or doing that guided meditation can help just settle you back down so that you're ready to go back into the bedroom and go to sleep. And then one of the final things that I want to mention, and this is a class that I have taught several times for Living Well, and we do it at night with everyone in their PJs, is Yoga Nidra. So Yoga Nidra is a guided meditation technique that induces a state of consciousness between sleeping and waking. They actually call it yogic sleep. It involves lying down in Shavasana, which is our corpse pose, which is just kind of that final relaxation pose, and using mental imagery to achieve a deep state of relaxation. So it always starts with breath, and there's a certain cycle of breath, and then it goes into a body scan and just rotation of consciousness throughout the body scan. And then you'll have some imagery and different things to think about. It'll say a snowy mountain or the moon at night, or a beach. It just kind of pops around to all these different places. And as we're doing this, you're going into working through the subtle layers of the body, which are the koshas, which we talk about in yoga. And you're also working on the brain waves. So you're going from, the alpha state to the next state. And what we're looking for is that state between theta and delta. And that is when you are just in a deep state of rest and healing, and just being there, not necessarily even going to sleep, can be enough to give you everything that you need for sleep. So it's really interesting and wonderful practice. It feels really nice. So after that kind of rotation of imagery, then you may have a little guided meditation to a park bench or to a mountain or down in a well. And that's going deeper into the subconscious. Sometimes things will bubble up, sometimes they won't. Sometimes you'll just fall asleep because your brain is like, okay, I've done enough and I'm ready to go to sleep. There are yoga nidra practices that you can do, again, through YouTube, but you can just look those up, or any of the apps have practices. And at the Bridge Yoga, they also do yoga nidra. And I myself have just a one night yoga nidra guided thing coming up on October 30th at 8:30, if that's something that you're interested in learning how to do. So a recap, we've talked about movement, getting the body prepared. We've talked about the breath work. We talked about body practices that you can do for mindfulness. And none of this is like, it's all free, right? It's all right there for you. The mind practices, the actual meditation, anchor meditation, or having a guided meditation for sleep. There's many out there that you can listen to. And then some of these kind of brain exercises or journaling. And then finally, the yoga nidra, which is kind of a practice that you can do anytime, not just right before you're falling asleep. So those are the mindfulness practices, and then some things that you really need to think about, and I think they're going to go deeper into with the next practice is your sleep hygiene. So that means, like, what are you doing in your evening hours to make sure that you are getting ready for sleep? So, developing that consistent sleep and wake schedule, using your bed for intimacy only and sleep only, avoiding things like alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, even food right before bedtime, shutting down those devices. That's probably the hardest thing for me, is to like stop the scroll and tell my brain that it's time to go to sleep. Developing those routines that can help the brain create the sleep habit. So like I said, you're telling your brain, hey, this is what we do to sleep. And the more that you do it, the more it reinforces. Just like our morning routines. Most of us have wonderful morning routines. We get up, we do all of our personal grooming, maybe we do our exercise, we are intentional, we journal, we read a book, we have our coffee, we know what we need to do to get ready for the day. What are you doing to end the day? Avoid that tossing and turning and clock watching. Just get out of the bed and do something else. Remember, your mindset is so important, that non-judgment. Creating a better sleep and sensory environment. Y'all will probably talk about this, but make your space something that feels good to be in. Releasing mental and emotional tension, and read or listen to sleep stories. And of course, protecting yourself from stress. Whatever that looks like, whatever you need to do for that during your waking hours. You can do that with mindfulness, with yoga, with exercise, with all different kinds of things. So that's the sleep hygiene. Here are some things that I mentioned with the Insight Timer app, the Calm app. I also really love Dan Harris's 10% Happier podcast. He also has an app with that, and that's really nice. You could do private or on-site yoga and mindfulness sessions at your work or at your home. And like I said, that guided yoga nidra session that I'm doing on October 30th, it's not through Living Well. It's just open. I thought I would do this because I feel like we can't really do a full yoga nidra session in this class, because I want to do an overview, but this will give you the practice to do it. So I'm going to see if I can write that down somewhere over here in the meeting chat, perhaps. I'll be working on that. But those are the resources that I have for you guys. And then also, I will most likely get some kind of handout for you with those practices that I mentioned. I just hadn't had a chance yet. And then maybe Madeline can send that out so that you have the practices listed just to remember. Oops, where'd I go? And then like I said, if there are specific things that you want to do for your work environment or home, then we can work together for that. Okay, last thing is, what questions do you have about mindfulness, about sleep, about anything that I've talked about? Maybe something didn't make sense. Let me know. Okay, so someone else, when asked point blank, how did you sleep? At what point did not answering honestly, when the honest answer is not that great, stop feeling like lying? Well, I would say that if someone asks you directly, you can be honest. There's no reason to lie about it. It's just that usually what we do is we don't even wait for someone to ask us about it. We're just telling everybody how we slept. You know, we want everyone to know we're grouchy because we didn't sleep. So don't feel like you have to not tell somebody, but also don't make it such an important thing that's like the first thing you ask your husband or your partner in the morning, how'd you sleep? Because then it just becomes this thing, you know. Any other questions? Hopefully this has been something that has been helpful for you guys. Good, good, good. I'm glad. I'm going to put the Yoga Nidra. It's just yoga with Marnie. It's my acuity schedule thing. If you want to try the Yoga Nidra, it's like a 45-minute session is what I usually do. If that's something that you're interested in, just to kind of keep this going so that you can have more practice. And, you know, thank you guys at Living Well for inviting me. And I'm glad we got through it all. That was kind of a lot that y'all learned.
Yes, Marnie, thank you so much for being with us and sharing such great information. I mean, I already feel so relaxed after the practices that we got to do with you. So I'm so looking forward to taking them home and incorporating them in my life as well. Thank you to everyone who attended today. Today's session was recorded, so if there's anything that you want to go back to, we will have that up on our YouTube soon. And
Awesome.
then part 3 will be in a couple of weeks, and we'll dive in more into that sleep hygiene so that we can all be more educated on sleep. So just another big thank you to Marnie for being here, and we hope everyone has a great afternoon.
It looks like someone says the page couldn't be found.
Oh
So
no.
I'll just send my contact information um, so that you can, it's just Marnie Krajicek at gmail.com. And if you want to check out the Yoga Nidra, then I will send you links. Okay. So Marnie Krajicek at Gmail. And Madeline, I'll try to get some kind of handout that hopefully you can
Perfect.
put somewhere so that way they can have that
We
somewhere.
can definitely do that on our end for sure.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Y'all have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, you
Okay.
too.
Bye. Yes, it's 10:30 by Zoom. Okay. Oh, sorry. On 10:30 at 8:30 by Zoom. All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye, Marnie. Thank you so much.
Mhm.